Rain pattered against the glass of Aaliyah's small apartment window in Karachi, matching the storm inside her chest. She had just received her paycheck, barely enough to cover rent, food, and her mother's medicines, but she smiled anyway. Survival, she had learned, was an art. As she sat cross-legged on her creaky bed, sipping cheap coffee, her phone buzzed. A text from her friend read, "Send me your share for the rent, $1,000. Aaliyah opened her banking app, humming to herself, and transferred the money. She didn't even look twice at the confirmation screen, until the app refreshed and she saw the name, recipient, Aurora Steele. Her breath caught. Aurora Steele? That wasn't her friend's name. In fact, that name seemed eerily familiar. She searched it online. The first result made her heart drop. Aurora Steele, CEO of Steele Enterprises, net worth $3.4 billion. Oh no, she whispered. No, no, no. Her stomach twisted. She had just sent $1,000, her entire month's pay, to a billionaire. A woman who probably spent that much on her morning coffee. She tried calling the bank, but they told her it could take several business days to investigate. She emailed the company's general contact address, explaining the mistake, half expecting never to hear back. That night, Aaliyah lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above her, her mind racing with what-ifs. She woke up the next morning to a ping on her phone. Email from aurora.steele@steeleenterprises.com. Her heart hammered. Ms. Aaliyah Khan. I received your message. You sent $1,000 to my account by mistake. Most people would assume I wouldn't notice, but I do. Tell me where to return it. Aurora Steele. Relief flooded Aaliyah's chest, but so did curiosity. What kind of billionaire took the time to reply to a random email from an unknown girl? She quickly typed back. Thank you so much. That's honestly a huge relief. I can share my account details. I really appreciate your honesty. A minute later, another email arrived. Before I return it, humor me, why was $1,000 such a big deal for you? You seemed genuinely panicked. Aaliyah blinked. She didn't know whether to be insulted or intrigued. Still, something about Aurora's tone, calm, direct, yet oddly kind, made her reply. Because it's all I had. It's not just money, it's rent, food, and my mother's medication. That $1,000 is my safety net. The reply came within seconds. Understood. I'll send it back. But let's meet someday. You sound different. Aaliyah reread the line a dozen times. Different? What did that mean? Outside, the rain had stopped, but inside her, something new began to stir. She didn't know it yet, but the mistaken transfer that ruined her night was about to change her life forever. Aaliyah hadn't stopped thinking about Aurora Steele since that night. The billionaire's email sat pinned at the top of her inbox, reread far too many times. She had received her money back, every dollar, but Aurora had also attached a message that lingered in Aaliyah's mind. If you're ever in Dubai, coffee's on me. Consider it an apology for the heart attack my name gave you. Aaliyah had laughed at that line for days. Someone like Aurora Steele didn't just invite ordinary people for coffee. She was the kind of woman who appeared in Forbes magazine spreads, sharp suits, silver wristwatch, and an expression that said I own the world. But fate, it seemed, wasn't done playing games. 2 weeks later, Aaliyah's company announced a regional tech conference in, of all places, Dubai. Her boss selected her to attend, praising her for hard work and innovation. Her pulse raced as she stared at the email. Dubai. Against her better judgment, she typed a short message. Hi Aurora, I'm actually going to be in Dubai next week for a work trip. I'd love to take you up on that coffee, if you still mean it. The reply came that evening. Tomorrow, 5 p.m., the Sky Lounge, Burj Al Noor. I'll be there. Aaliyah's fingers trembled. Oh my God. She spent the next day in a whirl of nerves, borrowing a friend's blazer, straightening her hair, practicing how not to sound like a starstruck fan. When she finally entered the Sky Lounge, her heart almost stopped. Aurora Steele sat near the window overlooking the city skyline, the golden sunset painting her in molten light. She was even more breathtaking than the pictures, tall, poised, her tailored white suit radiating quiet power. When Aurora looked up and smiled, it felt like the air shifted. Aaliyah Khan, she said, her voice smooth as silk. The girl who accidentally wired me $1,000. Aaliyah laughed nervously. That's me. I'm still mortified. Don't be. Most people try to take money from me. You're the first to give it. They talked for an hour that felt like minutes. Aurora asked about her life in Karachi, her job, her dreams. Aaliyah found herself opening up in ways she hadn't expected. Aurora listened, not out of curiosity, but with genuine attention. When the check arrived, Aurora waved it away. You're not paying this time. You've already been too generous. Aaliyah rolled her eyes but smiled. You're never going to let that go, are you? Aurora leaned in slightly, her eyes gleaming. Not when it gave me a reason to meet you. For a heartbeat, the world stood still. The city lights shimmered below, but Aaliyah felt only the warmth of that gaze, the quiet electricity pulsing between them. She had come to reclaim a mistake, but she was leaving with something far more dangerous, curiosity, and a spark she couldn't explain. Aaliyah couldn't stop thinking about Aurora after that evening. It wasn't just the way she looked, though God knew she was mesmerizing, it was how she made Aaliyah feel. Seen. Heard. Like her words mattered. Back in her modest hotel room, she replayed their conversation a dozen times. Aurora had this habit of tilting her head slightly when she listened, her eyes soft but focused. She didn't dominate the conversation the way powerful people usually did, she made space for silence, for thought. The next morning, as Aaliyah packed for her final day at the conference, her phone buzzed. Aurora, still in Dubai? Aaliyah, leaving tomorrow. Aurora, dinner tonight? Aaliyah stared at the message for a long minute, her pulse quickening. She typed and deleted her response twice before settling on a simple, sure. That evening, Aurora picked her up herself, a small act that surprised Aaliyah. She could have sent a driver, but there she was, standing beside a black Mercedes, her hair tied back, the faintest trace of perfume lingering in the air. You didn't have to do this, Aaliyah said as she climbed in. Aurora smiled. I didn't have to reply to your email either. Dinner was at a quiet seaside restaurant far from the city's chaos. Candlelight reflected off the glass walls, and the sound of waves blended with faint jazz. Aurora seemed different tonight, less guarded, almost playful. Do you ever get tired of it? Aaliyah asked suddenly. The money, the power, the pretending to be untouchable? Aurora's expression softened. Every day, she admitted. People look at me and see a brand, not a person. You're the first one who spoke to me like I'm human. Aaliyah smiled. Maybe that's because I accidentally treated you like a bank. Aurora laughed, a rich, genuine laugh that made Aaliyah's chest ache with warmth. That might be the most honest thing anyone's ever done for me. They walked along the pier after dinner, the breeze cool against their faces. The night felt strangely suspended in time. I wasn't supposed to meet you, Aaliyah said quietly. Neither was I, Aurora replied. But maybe we don't get to choose who stumbles into our lives. They stopped walking. The distance between them felt charged, magnetic. Aurora looked down at her, eyes searching. Tell me to stop, and I will. Aaliyah's breath hitched. Her heart knew the answer long before her voice did. Don't. Aurora leaned in, and when their lips met, it wasn't fireworks, it was something softer, deeper, like finding the missing note in a half-forgotten song. For a fleeting moment, nothing else mattered. Not the money. not the worlds that separated them. Only the quiet truth that somehow, a mistake had led her exactly where she was meant to be. When Aaliyah returned to Karachi, life went back to its routine rhythm, at least, on the surface. She worked her shifts, cooked dinner for her mother, and pretended everything was the same. But every night, she checked her phone, hoping for Aurora's name to appear. It always did. Sometimes it was a short message. "Miss your sarcasm." Other times, it was a picture, Aurora's office skyline at dawn, or her hand clutching a coffee cup with the caption, "Wish you were here." The connection between them grew quietly, like a secret vine winding through their separate worlds. But Aaliyah couldn't ignore the truth. Aurora lived in a universe of penthouses and private jets, while she struggled to make rent. Their conversations were full of laughter and warmth, but beneath it all lay a fragile awareness of distance, economic, social, emotional. One night, after a long day, Aaliyah finally asked the question that haunted her. "Aaliyah, what are we doing, Aurora?" "You're, you. And I'm just me." "Aurora, you make that sound like a bad thing." "Aaliyah, it's reality." "Aurora, then maybe reality needs a little rebellion." Aurora's confidence was intoxicating, but Aaliyah's fear ran deeper. She had seen what happened when rich people got bored, how they left, and the ones left behind had to rebuild from nothing. Weeks passed. Aurora visited Karachi unexpectedly one evening, her jet touching down without warning. Aaliyah was stunned to see her at her doorstep, no makeup, no entourage, just a woman in jeans and a plain white shirt holding a paper bag. "I brought dinner," Aurora said simply. "And I missed you." They sat on the floor of Aaliyah's small living room, eating biryani from plastic containers. Aurora laughed when Aaliyah's mother scolded her for not eating enough. It was absurd, this billionaire sitting cross-legged on the carpet, laughing like she belonged there. After dinner, when her mother had gone to bed, Aurora whispered, "You keep hiding behind the idea that we're different. But when I'm with you, I don't feel like the woman in the magazines. I just feel real." Aaliyah looked at her, torn between awe and fear. "And what happens when reality catches up, Aurora? When your world demands you back?" Aurora's gaze darkened. "Then I'll fight it. If it means staying where I finally feel human." But Aaliyah shook her head softly. "You can't live in my world, and I can't live in yours." The silence between them grew heavy, filled with the ache of unspoken truths. Aurora reached out, brushing her thumb along Aaliyah's jaw. "Maybe," she whispered, "we'll build one of our own." It was a promise that felt impossible, and yet, in that fragile moment, Aaliyah wanted to believe it more than anything. For a while, they managed to keep their little world hidden. Aurora would fly down quietly, her visits short but filled with laughter and whispers. Sometimes, Aaliyah would wake in the night and find her sitting by the window, barefoot, gazing out over the sleeping city. "You know," Aaliyah teased once, "you look less like a billionaire and more like a poet with insomnia." Aurora smiled without turning. "Maybe I'm both." But the illusion couldn't last forever. It started with a photo, a blurry shot taken at a cafe in Karachi. Aurora's hand reaching across the table, her fingers brushing Aaliyah's. The image hit the tabloids 2 days later. Billionaire Aurora Steele seen with mystery woman in Karachi, love or scandal? Within hours, the internet exploded. Speculation, judgment, fascination, it all swirled together like wildfire. Aaliyah's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Her coworkers whispered behind her back. Her mother looked at her with confusion and worry. "Aurora," Aaliyah said on a shaky call that night, "it's everywhere. I can't go outside without people staring." "I'll fix this," Aurora said, her tone sharp with protectiveness. "You shouldn't have to hide." "Fix it?" Aaliyah's voice trembled. "How do you fix something like this? You're a billionaire, Aurora. You'll survive a scandal. I'll lose everything." For the first time, Aurora didn't have an answer. The line went quiet except for their breathing. 2 days later, Aurora held a press conference. Cameras flashed as she stood at the podium, composed yet defiant. "Yes," she said clearly, "the rumors are true. The woman in the photo is Aaliyah Khan. She is not a secret. She is someone who changed my life. And I will not apologize for caring about her. Aaliyah watched it live from her apartment, tears slipping down her cheeks. The world gasped, social media exploded again, half cheering, half condemning. But Aaliyah saw something else, courage. The next morning, her boss called. "We can't have this kind of publicity attached to the company, Aaliyah. You understand, right?" She nodded silently, even though he couldn't see her. She understood all too well. That evening, Aurora arrived at her door again, breathless, eyes filled with guilt. "You lost your job because of me." Aaliyah shook her head. "No, I lost it because the world still can't handle who you love." Aurora reached for her hand. "Come with me. Leave this behind. I'll take care of you." But Aaliyah pulled away, her voice breaking. "That's exactly what I'm afraid of, that I'll stop being me and become someone you protect." Aurora's eyes glistened. "So what do you want, Aaliyah?" Aaliyah swallowed hard. "Time. To find out who I am without losing you." And with that, she closed the door softly, leaving Aurora standing in the rain, a woman who had everything, except the one thing that suddenly mattered most. Months passed. The world's attention shifted to new scandals, new headlines, but Aaliyah and Aurora had quietly drifted into silence. Aaliyah found work at a small community tech center, teaching coding to young girls. The pay wasn't much, but it brought her peace. Each morning, she'd walk through the crowded streets, smell of chai and rain in the air, pretending her heart wasn't still tethered to someone miles away. Aurora, meanwhile, buried herself in work. Her company thrived, but her nights were quiet. She'd catch herself typing Aaliyah's name into her phone and then delete it before hitting send. For a woman who could buy anything, the one thing she wanted was the only thing she couldn't command, time to go back. One evening, Aaliyah stayed late at the center, helping a student fix a broken laptop. When she finally stepped outside, she froze. A black car was parked by the curb. And leaning against it, dressed simply in jeans and a navy sweater, was Aurora Steele. Aaliyah's heart stumbled. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "Maybe not," Aurora said softly. "But I needed to be." They stood in the glow of a flickering streetlight, the noise of the city fading around them. Aurora stepped closer. "You asked for time. I gave it. But I never stopped hoping that maybe time would lead me back here." Aaliyah looked at her, torn between longing and fear. "The world hasn't changed, Aurora. They'll still talk." "Let them," Aurora said simply. "I've spent my whole life caring about the world's opinion. The only voice I miss hearing is yours." Aaliyah laughed shakily. "You always know what to say, don't you?" Aurora smiled faintly. "Not always. Sometimes I say the wrong thing. Like when I offered to take care of you instead of standing beside you. I know now that love isn't rescue, it's respect." Something in Aaliyah's chest cracked open. The anger, the fear, the longing, it all melted into something raw and real. She took a step forward. "You really flew all the way here just to say that?" Aurora's voice was barely above a whisper. "No. I came to ask if you still believe in mistakes that turn into miracles." For a long moment, Aaliyah just stared at her. Then she smiled through her tears. "Maybe I do." Aurora exhaled, relief washing over her face. She reached out, and this time Aaliyah didn't pull away. Their hands met, firm, certain, trembling with everything they had both been too afraid to admit. The rain began to fall again, soft and cleansing. Aurora leaned in, resting her forehead against Aaliyah's. "For what it's worth," she murmured, "I'm still grateful for that mistaken $1,000. Aaliyah laughed through her tears. "Most expensive love story ever." Aurora smiled. "Worth every cent." And under that Karachi rain, with the city humming quietly around them, they kissed, not as two people from different worlds, but as two souls who had finally found their way home.